Welcome to my do's and don'ts of progress. These are lessons I've learned and mistakes I've made along my health and fitness journey, and then I'm going to share them with you today so that you are more confident and more effective at reaching your health and fitness goals, whatever they might look like for you. So get yourself comfortable, grab yourself a journal and start to write down some of these big ideas. I have 7 for you today. Okay, our first one is celebrate the wins. We so often forget to do this because we're so focused on the next battle or the next obstacle. And as soon as we overcome that one, then there's the next one. And what I want you to do is take notice of every little win, every little milestone as you get there, and celebrate it. I want you to learn to be your own biggest cheerleader. And as you do that, therefore, you're going to gain confidence and you're going to build that into your identity. So say, for instance, you have a healthy eating goal, then every time you make a choice that moves towards that goal, celebrate it. And therefore you start to feel that is part of who you are. And that's going to build confidence and happiness and progression as you go towards that goal. So celebrate the wins. Nothing is too small, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Like, be cheesy with it. Yes, go me. I am not afraid to say that, okay, ladies and gents? Like, I want you to really, really celebrate those small wins because we just don't. We don't. We think they're too small. And yet we'd so happily do that for a friend or a family member if they told us about some of these things. So be your own greatest cheerleader, pom-poms and all, people. Number 2 is don't celebrate too much. So having said that, celebrate. Don't celebrate too much. And this is what I mean by that, okay? So your method, like your reward, your celebration, shouldn't distract, interrupt, or hinder you from your progress towards your big end goal. So say, for instance, I'm interested in health and longevity. Then once I've reached a certain milestone, a great reward that would be in line with that end goal might be like a retreat, something that I enjoy. A not so great way of celebrating might be going out and getting way too drunk, because ultimately that goes against what I'm trying to work towards. And if you're trying to work towards a healthy human, like whatever that looks like for you, then you want that to be part of your identity. And that reward of getting drunk, like, it contradicts that identity. You're going to feel rubbish the next day physically from having made those choices and having voted for that identity that conflicts with where you actually want to be. So don't celebrate too much in a way that distracts you from where you want to be. Make sure your reward matches that end goal. And as part of that, I'd also say, part of that intersecting, not a little cross there, part of that is like, be aware of false achievement. And let me give you an example of that. So I bought my husband a watch when he was really into running. And every time he trained, it would give him these theoretical like 5K, 10K marathon paces. And he's not run a marathon for like 6 years, but he'd quite happily come in and tell me like, my marathon pace has gone down to this and this every single week. And like, in many ways, yes, that was showing that he was improving, but that wasn't the truest like measure of his achievement because he wasn't actually running those times. So therefore it wasn't a true achievement. And he's actually done the same thing for me as well when I pointed this out. And so when I was training to get a chin up or a pull up, he wouldn't allow me to say that I'd achieved a pull up when actually I was doing chin-ups. So chin-ups are slightly easier. And at the time I was like, but why? Like, they're the same thing. And actually, having then achieved a pull-up, which is a harder version than the chin-up, I realized why he'd said that. Because calling the two interchangeable when actually they're different levels of difficulty took away from when I'd achieved the harder version. So pick a reward that matches your goal. Celebrate and incorporate those wins into your confidence, but don't let your celebration move your focus or hinder you or contrast and contradict your end goal. Whew, okay. So This is now number 3 of my do's and don'ts. Do redefine impossible. And let me give you an example of this. So if I was to say to you, my goals are splits and handstands, how many of you immediately think, oh, I couldn't do that? I bet quite a big percentage. And I'm not really interested in whether you can or can't, or could or couldn't get there. It's more about the mental story. Because if you've immediately gone, I can't do that, that's not for me, it's so alien, I can't even relate to it, then you've anticipated failure. And therefore you've given yourself the perfect opt-out clause. And yeah, handstands and splits might not interest you, but whatever your goals are, then the same psychology applies. Don't set yourself up for failure, because then you've got the perfect opt-out clause for when you don't succeed. And that opt-out clause might be like, well, of course I didn't achieve it because I never thought I would anyway. You'll feel, I think towards any goal, there'll come a time when you feel a bit disheartened, discouraged, progress isn't coming as fast as you'd like. And so impossible is up here, but that impossible goal is actually achieved by getting those tiny increments. And you don't really feel like you're progressing. It feels like that this is almost like wasted work, but it's not. It's getting stored, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, now I can do that. It's like the idea of saving money. Like if you put aside £1 every day, say for instance, then at some point you're going to get to a certain amount of money that you're like, oh, well, that's a lot. And it wasn't ever £1 that made the difference. It wasn't like the difference between like Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm not rich, now I'm rich. But it was the cumulative effects of all of those different bits. So I'd encourage you to see your goal like that. Don't ever let anything limit those ambitions. Like if you want to do splits, then start small. Do a small action, work towards that. Enjoy the journey. And if you enjoy the journey without putting too much emphasis on the goal, then that's going to become so much more enjoyable in it as well. Okay, this is number 4. Do redefine failure. And I'm not going to lie, I've struggled with this. And I think it's because our education system and our culture is very results driven, and it's very performance related. So there's therefore this clear outcome of success and failure. Like you take an exam in school and you do well or you don't. And therefore it can become quite hard for people to actually experience failure in life. And I would like to reframe that for you. I have a little catchphrase that I use a lot. There's no failure, there's only feedback. And yes, I say it to myself all the time. I have to remind myself, because when I'm in a failure hole, it can feel pretty awful. I can dwell on it and try and rationalize it and things like that. And I have to literally, as a mantra, just be like, there's no failure, there's only feedback. Because at the end of the day, failure is just a label that I've chosen to put on that scenario, when really it's just a lesson. I've learned something from that. Be brave enough to suck at something new. I can still remember when I did some toddler yoga classes and the kids were the 2, 3, 4-year-olds were running around screaming, banging on the walls, and afterwards I felt horrible. I felt like I'd failed. But I went away and I came up with some new strategies, and I was brave enough to go into that situation and try again. And do you know what? I was better next time. So yes, doing something new is scary, but it is worth it. You will figure it out. Have confidence in that. You are a resourceful human being that's got this far in your life. So if you suck at something, cool. Go away and learn how to be better. Practice, practice, practice. It's all a journey. Okay, we are 4 through. I have 3 left, and these ones are good ones. But before I tell you what they are, I would love for you to head to the description section. And now I've popped a link. If you sign up there, I have some free stuff for you. So I have a getting started plan that's going to coach you through creating sustainable change. It is so useful, taking you step by step through the process, on whether that is health, fitness, nutrition. You can use that roadmap to help you create change. So go and subscribe now, and I'll be landing in your inbox in the next couple of minutes. Okay, these are my final 3 ideas. So the first one, do be consistent throughout the challenges, because they are going to come. At some point in your life, crisis will happen. The dishwasher will break. The job will be lost, say for instance. Let's hope it's not. But these things happen, don't they, in life? Your car will break down. And so when we know that these challenges are going to come, it means that we are much more likely to commit to the process of getting through them. You don't have to be putting in 10 out of 10% effort perhaps during those things, but you can still be doing something. So think of it like a scale. You might be 10 out of 10 when life is like all in your favor. You've got the time, you've got the energy, you've got the resources, and all of those crisis things happen, and you might dial that scale down to 2 or 3 or 4. But those things are still important and still worth doing. Ditch that all or nothing mindset and trust the process. Trust the process. Every single little thing that you do towards your goal adds up and it counts. It is never wasted, okay? And that includes even if you take a break. Even if it's a day, a week, or month, it doesn't matter. Get straight back into it. Get straight back into those habits, because there is no right or wrong. Like, there's no overnight success. There's no this magical breakthrough point. Just every single action that you do towards your goal is important. Okay, next one. I'm holding up 2 fingers, but it's actually number 6. Number 6, I'll work on my counting skills for next week. So number 6 is, don't keep it to yourself. If you are working towards something, share it. And I have to say, this is scary, isn't it? Because it goes back to that failure thing. Because if we share a goal and then we don't meet it, we think, oh, everyone's going to know that I failed. Well, do you know what? They probably didn't notice. They're so focused on their goals, their life, and what's happening to them, then they're not going to notice whether or not you did or didn't do that thing you said you were going to do. However, by sharing your goals, then it means that you can start to find the support of the people around you. You can find accountability. You can find like-minded people that are working towards the same goals, and that's going to give you ideas and motivation and inspiration towards that. Like, for instance, say you wanted to start running, a good example of this, like go join a runners club. The desired behavior there is the normal behavior, not maybe the existing group of friends that are like, well, I've never run a day in my life. Why would you want to do that? So join a group where the desired behavior is the normal behavior, and that has such an effect. And then also as part of this, and this has hit home for me recently as well, is if you tell people what you're going to do, then there is a lot of power in letting yourself be heard. It's vulnerable, so yes, like you do put yourself in danger of, someone poo-pooing you or discouraging you. But if I keep those to myself, I keep a part of that back from people, and that I'd put under the label of authenticity. Let your authentic self be heard. So if I said to you, I really want to, my dream is to go do retreats in Spain. It's not. But say it was, like this, I'm not serving the world by playing small and not telling that story to people, not telling that dream. So be bold. And I don't mean in a brash, arrogant sort of way, but be bold with what you want to achieve. Be unapologetically ambitious. So if you want to revamp your nutrition, if you want to run a marathon, if you want to take up a practice of yoga, whatever it might be, if you want to lose weight or gain weight, share those goals. Let yourself be bold in that, and you'll be surprised at the reactions. Okay, here's the final one. And this is ironic. So it's don't procrastinate, and it's ironic because I was actually procrastinating making this video. So don't procrastinate, because you won't ever be ready. You won't ever be prepared, and you won't ever have enough time. And I guess people understand this more in the context of like having children. So everyone's kind of on board with the idea that you're never going to be ready for the challenges of having a child. If you want to do it, you've got to do it anyway. And I think the same logic actually applies to most of our goals and ambitions. Like, say for instance, you want to run a marathon. Well, you're never going to be well, I'll sort my sleep out first and then I'll sort my nutrition out. Like, you're never going to be in that perfect place ready to then go run that marathon. So just do it. Do the training, do the marathon. And then also, one of my favorite sayings here is motivation comes from action. So if you're sat there procrastinating, watching the next series of Netflix, waiting for inspiration to strike, oh, I really want to go for a run now, then you know what, especially in winter, that's not going to happen. Like, the urge to hibernate is going to take over. That's fine. But do something, and then you'll be motivated to either build on that action or do it again. So my favourite way to use this is things like, say for instance, let's use the run example. So I want to go out for a run, but actually it's raining, it's really chucking it down, it's freezing cold. My action might be to get my running bra on before I dress for the day. Well, I'm now wearing the bra, I can't opt out now. The next thing might be like, get the trainers out. And yes, this is part of also like making the environment work for me, but I'm actually choosing to act. And therefore, I walk down the stairs, I see the running trainers, and yes, they're nice and easy and obvious, but those little actions for preparing myself all add up and make me want to do it more. And it's the same thing with eating. Meal prep once, make a nutritious meal once, you notice how tasty it is, how great it feels, and you're more likely to do it again. So motivation comes from action, not the other way round. Do not wait for inspiration to strike. Start and then let the motivation and inspiration come from that. And quite often you'll find also the next steps will kind of work themselves out once you've taken those initial moves. So don't wait. Say for instance, you want to like change career. Don't wait until you have all of this set up and the entire next few years kind of set up and all planned out, because then you'll never do it. You're procrastinating. So just do it. And quite often you have to do it in order to be able to see the next steps. You can't anticipate what you don't already know. So do it, and then the next step will become obvious. I hope you have enjoyed this, and head over to my next video. Let's keep learning together.